afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We'll get to the JRC here in a moment, but first, the disclaimers and the trigger warnings. Just give me a second first, real quick, because as you know, technical difficulties. Hold on a minute. There we go. Alright, now obviously out in LA we have all hell breaking loose. Irrationally and completely in a way that could have been avoided entirely kind of level. Which has been life, let's face it, for the last 10 to 15 years. But as of right now, we are not the type of channel that generally covers the more mainstream stuff like that. But I do recommend that you guys keep an eye on YouTube, places like Midas Touch, Pac-Man, and all the rest. They're doing a pretty good job with ears to the ground in regards to everything that's going on right now out in that area. In the meantime, I have been doing exactly what I've been telling you all I was going to be doing, which is essentially keeping my eye on the prize in regards to the current budget bill. As of right now, that's still being an out-and-out fight out in the Senate, so nothing new to update you guys on yet in regards to that. Now, folks, to the disclaimers. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shops campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links are going to be right there in the description box for you, with some hopefully helpful labels so that you know what you're clicking on when you click on it. In case you want to do a deep dive on your own, please in particular remember we do have Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject where we get the bulk of our receipts on this channel in regards to the Judge Rothberg Educational Center. And also don't forget that article by Neuroplastic where they surveyed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the Judge Rothberg Educational Center's so-called behavior modification program. I do like that they went over the entire program and not just the notorious GED device. It is an absolute thorough addressing of all the abuses that they get up to at the JRC behind closed doors. I do recommend you read it, particularly since the JRC threatened Neuroplastic that if they didn't remove their article from their own website, the JRC was going to serve them with a defamation lawsuit. So far, that has not happened, but that tells me something in that survey, that interview, really got the JRC a little bit concerned. So please read that and share it on all your social media. We have Neuroplastic's GoFundMe. If you can pinch in a bit, we would definitely appreciate it. If you can't, please share it. Folks, on this channel, we do have it marked as not for kids for a reason. First off, we do cover very dark subjects, such as the Judge Rothberg Educational Center and Agape Boarding School for Boys, in which you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. We also do tend to use profanity on a very, very regular basis. So if your child is 16 and younger and they are watching the channel, parental supervision is very much advised. Alright, so I did a little bit of reading ahead, which means we're going to be doing a lot more, once again, repeating ourselves on the next bullet point, because the JRC never seems to know how to do anything but copy, paste, rearrange the words, hope that that will actually work if the other one doesn't. I do these things and get the headaches so you all don't have to. I don't know what to tell you on that one. Well, let's get to it, shall we? Okay. So, the FDA misstates the literature as to therapies such as PBS by overstating the effectiveness of these therapies in combination with pharmacotherapy as a means of treating severe SIB and AB, and at the same time mischaracterizes the literature on ESDs by claiming it is biased, incomplete, and not based on randomized controlled studies. That's because, first of all, they're correct on that, but we'll get to your last sentence in a moment, because we've been explaining to you for multiple years now why every single word of what you just spouted was a lie, or written by someone who has no business running a residential school type of program such as the JRC. But we'll address that here in a moment. First off, PBS is a television station. It is not a form of therapy. In particular, you are using the term incorrectly, as per usual. Positive behavioral supports is, again, for the 19th conzillionth goddamn time, is an umbrella term, not a type of therapy itself. It is an umbrella term under which sits different types of therapies that do not rely on negative reinforcement or aversives. Okay? So under that umbrella, you would be looking at PT, you'd be looking at OT, you have person-centered planning and person-centered therapy. You have positive behavioral reinforcement. Now, let me tell you why I bring that up again for the billionth time. It's because the JRC do their absolute damnedest to try to confuse the public in regards to positive behavioral reinforcement by trying to make people think they use terms like BPS and positive behavioral reinforcement synonymously. They don't. They use an umbrella term that they know is an umbrella term because they want to confuse others. Because saying positive behavioral supports is close enough, similar enough to the term positive behavioral reinforcement that many layperson on the street are going to take them as meaning one and the same thing and go about their day. Well, I'm sorry, but that's just not the case. If you actually go back into the paperwork, especially in their response to the report put out in 2006 by the New York State Department of Education, after their unannounced visits investigation into what they were really getting up to behind closed doors at the JRC, Dr. Israel himself told us that they believed that positive behavioral reinforcement, get this is what he thought it was in 2006, a theory, not an actual concrete form of therapy that's been around for, at the very least, a couple of decades now, with its own data and statistics, but a theory. And then later on in the report, they actually admit to the fact that they don't even know what positive behavioral reinforcement actually is, nor do they have any clue on how to actually implement it. That is exactly why they use similar sounding terms that in actuality are not really that closely related to one another, because they want to confuse you. They can't come at PBR directly because they don't even know what it is. But if they use this similar sounding word, and let's face it, they literally hate anything at all that actually is a form of therapy that treats me as though I am my own person, a person with rights, someone who has value as a human being, whether I have a diagnosis or not, really kind of cramps their style, doesn't it? So they want to use the brush to paint anything that sounds like positive behavioral reinforcement, which is one of the biggest therapies that are being employed right now throughout the rest of the sane medical model, so that you'll dismiss it like they do. Okay? First off, speaking of the fact that PBS is not a therapy in and of itself, it's an umbrella term that has to do with a set of different types of therapies. Exactly how are they overstating the numbers? It's an umbrella term. It is not a therapy. Which means you're playing fast and loose with the truth again, JRC. Because where the data is going to show in regards to success rates is when you go underneath the umbrella and actually pull up the actual therapies underneath said umbrella. For example, we are going to do a quick Google search real quick. Excuse me, I might use something from my old video I put up yesterday. Let's take a look, shall we? All right. Significant reduction in SIB. We use positive behavioral reinforcement, the actual therapy. Okay? Significant reduction in self-injurious behavior. Studies using applied behavior analysis ABA therapy, which heavily incorporates positive reinforcement, have shown significant reductions in self-injurious behaviors, with some reporting up to 85% reduction. Now, ABA has a whole shitload of its own issues. And I am not a fan with some of the absolutely bizarre psychological mindfuckery that they teach parents to use on their kids to treat us how to behave. I hate saying but because period. as the JRC are trying to use it as one of their gotcha points. I had to pull up the statistics, even though it's mainly being used within ABA right now, although it's actually sometimes used just by itself as well. So that, yeah, when you actually look at it and look what the JRC is trying to paint, you can see, once again, they don't actually know what the real numbers actually are in regards to success rates with positive behavior reinforcement being used to treat severe injurious behavior and aggressive behavior. 85% reduction. Okay? 85. Not exactly the small change that the JRC wants you to believe it is, right? Okay, so we are going to go down to specific examples and success rates. That's primarily what I'm focused on right now. Okay, so functional communication training. This is known as FCT, that teaches alternative ways to express needs and utilizes reinforcement, has been shown to reduce SIB more than 80%. I want you to look at that again. Positive behavioral reinforcement, part of one of its tenets is the functional communication training, or FCT. So, in other words, this is where they are trying to teach us, instead of going to full meltdown because nobody's understanding us, and gives us a different way of being able to express it, whether vocally, whether it is bringing in some assistive communicative equipment to help us be better to able to communicate with others. It's teaching folks how to better socially speak, or gently. I didn't get so much to gentle, but also gently let us know when what we're saying is getting inappropriate. Because I'll be honest, it hasn't happened a lot in my life, but it has happened, and it is a thing with some of us autistic folk. Not gonna lie. Now, listen to what it says. Needs and utilizes reinforcement, has been shown to reduce self-injurious behavior more than 80%. 80%, JRC. Let's go to the next one. Differential reinforcement or other behavior, DRO. Differential reinforcement, alternative behavior. These strategies involving reinforcing absence of problematic behaviors or reinforcing alternative desirable behaviors are effective in minimizing self-harm. So, as you can see here, they've got some factors that have to do in regards with the success of these methods, of these therapies in treating self-injurious behavior and aggressive behavior. So now let's get back to where we were, shall we? JRC, you just lied. You just tried to undermine the actual success rate of a therapy you don't even understand. You did so willfully, using a similar sounding term to confuse the public who doesn't understand that positive behavioral reinforcement and PBS are not the same thing, to cover your own ass. Because as a matter of fact, not only are you grossly misrepresenting the success rates in treating SIB and AB in regards to other therapies, the data we just looked at is the same types of numbers that you claim through the success of your GED device. 80%. Also known as the exact same numbers. So what does this tell me? It tells me that there are other forms of therapies that at the very least are just as effective as the GED device. And once more, they were able to get those results without inflicting a massive amount of pain intentionally on a vulnerable disabled child in order to get the exact same results that you all pound your chests over in regards to your torture device. Okay? If your numbers are the same, then this is nothing else than the most horribly put together, slapped together by a third grader and just sent out randomly smear campaign against the mainstream medical model that I have ever seen. Okay? You are the ones who are misrepresenting yourselves. And then using similar terms to smear other therapies whose numbers are at the very least in regards to effectiveness equal to yours. The difference is in their studies, they have follow-ups. So I could actually pull up right now data numbers in what these long-term positive changes look like. Did they stay? Are they still there with the person today? 1, 2 years, 3 years, 4, 5. You did no follow-up with anybody from your clinical study. Which means, in order to believe that the effects of the GED device in regards to stopping SIB or AB remain with the student long after they left your hellhole and the torture device behind, I'm just going to have to literally rely on your just trust me bro mentality. I'm sorry, when I'm autistic, I like facts. I like numbers. I like things that I can pull up and put right in front of my eyeballs. You do not provide me with that type of information in a reasonable, coherent, and proper manner, with all the proper controls in place and follow-ups afterwards, with others who, down the line, can replicate your results, then your study is meaningless and carries no weight. Sorry, not sorry. Okay? And JRC, you can sit there and scream, but all the literature on ESDs, for the love of God, the only people as of right now that have any literature in regards to ESDs and treating SIV and AB is you, JRC. And no, we do not trust you to speak for you. You have been caught destroying evidence against judges' orders. You've played fast and loose, duck and weave with the FDA on getting your devices properly licensed. You have been known to intimidate parents and threaten them with removing their custody of their own children over to a guardian if they do not agree to sign to let you put a human shock collar on their kids. Yeah, you are about as trustworthy as my brother around chocolate pie. Sorry, I'm a little tired. I don't have a better analogy there, but for the love of God, JRC. The FDA does not misinterpret the literature in regards to other therapies literally used by the rest of us. They are stating it exactly as it appears in the data as I just proved. Okay? At the very least, it's sitting at the same numbers of success that you claim. We can also point back to when you said, well, regardless of what you did, when the GED device would not work and you would take a student off and try something else and it would work, that was rare, but sometimes you had to. That tells me that in all actuality, the GED has never ever been the last choice. If it doesn't work on the kid, you move to something that is not a physical aversive, you see it works, but you still insist on torturing kids. That tells me you are a sadist, you are brainwashed, or you graduated from Yosef Mengele Medical School. Okay? We're going to go ahead and close on that one, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, if you could, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and, of course, folks, please don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this afternoon, and as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea absolutely do hope you have a good one. I will see you all here in just a moment. Bye-bye now.